Hello, everyone. Happy full moon in Cancer and Capricorn. Um, it's very appropriate that we're sort of kicking off 2026 this way because this full moon, really highlights a lot of the themes that we can expect in the year ahead. So I'm going to talk more about this in a workshop I'm hosting tomorrow for queer and trans community and allies um, on Venus cycles and kind of a preview of what I call the queer energies of 2026, which, are embodied very much. Like they're getting set up now because everything's a cycle and everything flows into the next thing. And I just love when the various astrological systems I follow just so clearly demonstrate that there's only one energy that's just expressed in different ways. It's so fun. So today the full moon is in Cancer. Every full moon is basically when the sun and the moon are aligned across the zodiac. Everything, is a cycle, and on a circle, for every point, there's an opposite point, right? And that's, I think, what we forget and lose track of in a capitalist culture because, a lot of us were raised in these systems that want us to think that things are a straight line and that therefore there's a thing ahead of you that's going to solve your problem that you could buy or something. So, but if it's a cycle and you just wait, a lot of things kind of sort themselves out if you could just feel into it as well. So, so on the opposite side of Cancer is Capricorn. So this full moon, the moon represents our feelings, our inner world, our body, how we nurture ourselves. It represents mothering as an archetype and our literal mothers. Capricorn is the sign that's ruled by Saturn. It's discipline and structure and order. And so, this is an axis really kind of highlighting parenting in a way and how are we being our own parents. All of this is going to depend on the house that it falls into on your chart. So if you find your birth chart, you can get one for free online and look up what house number Cancer and Capricorn fall into on your natal chart. That'll tell you what area of life it's most affecting for you. So but in general, the full moon highlights things, right? But it highlights things from a feeling perspective versus the sun that's kind of blah, here it is. So that being kind of go inward, slow down, reflect, moon being the body as well, whereas sun is kind of more of the outward. Slow down and what's being highlighted in your body. Capricorn is a sign associated with going slow, with structure, again, with routine, with boundaries. Time's a boundary, death's a boundary, rest, sleep, illness, all these things are boundaries, but so are skeletons, and we all need boundaries or else we're not safe in relationship with other people. So we need both these things. We need the balance of the doing and the feeling. Today in the Maya calendar is the day 7 Imox. So this is the number of the top of the pyramid. So in the Maya calendar, there are 13-day cycles called trisenas, in the one I follow anyways. And each day has an energetic signature, which is combined of the number 1 through 13 that it is, along with the archetype or the symbol that represents that day. And so each day has a unique combination of number and symbol. And, once every so many cycles, the same frequencies come around again, just like the zodiac wheel, right? They're wheels. They're just different wheels. So today is very much about this, like, what's the view from the mountaintop? Because Capricorn is also the sea goat. That's the symbol represented by that's the representation for Capricorn on the zodiac wheel. Again, wheels, symbols, tracking, numbers, and images. So yeah, Capricorn kind of being associated with, again, like the number will be different depending on your place, time, circumstance. There's a little bit more fixedness in like the tropical zodiac, kind of like maybe what some of us are used to in terms of traditional or popular modern astrology. But if you kind of go back to like the ancient frameworks, you see that there's actually a lot more fluidity than we've been told. And that's why looking at different systems, I think, is really helpful to kind of combine, to see what's like, what are the resonant threads, because those are probably the most, consistent to our experience as humans. So yeah, the top of the mountain. So Capricorn was the sea goat that was a land goat, and like basically had to go into the sea to try to save his children who were being attacked, and in the sea, like turned into, like, developed a fishtail, and the children stayed on land and Capricorn stayed in the sea. And it was like, it's this kind of sad story of like him longing for his children to join him, but having to let them kind of do their thing. So that's very representative of what's going on now, and like, how do we need to maybe accept limits in our life? Where do we need to maybe call more limits in? The view from the top of the mountain is important, right? Because we have to see the possibilities before us in order to make an informed decision. But if all we see is possibility, then we never move forward. There's a concept in Hellenistic astrology that's kind of this idea that like each sign has a sort of corrective function for some of the extremes maybe of the sign that came before it. So we just came out of Sagittarius season, which is mine, which is Jupiter, which is Ghost of Christmas Future, which is more for everyone, which can be excess. That's definitely something that I struggle with. So after the excess comes the austerity, right? If we have too much Jupiter, this is something I personally can speak for, then all we see is possibility. All we see are all the decisions that, as the number 7 represents, in the view from the top of the pyramid, you can see everything. You can see all the possibilities. That's great. That's expansive. We need hope. We need choices. But like, if you get stuck up there, like, you can get decision paralysis. You can get stuck up there looking at all the possibilities, like, shit, which way should I go? And that's something I struggle with a lot, whether it's from a fear place, or like, I don't want this thing to end, or like, I'm afraid of what this could be. I don't quite know. I can't quite see what's out there. Or if it's just a like, but I love everything. I want to do everything. Like, all experiences that I struggle with, all things represented by the 7 and by the sea goat. The sea goat is mystical and expansive and like kind of weird and psychedelic, but also like couldn't live in both the land and the sea at once, and had to let his children go when that wasn't like aligning with what was happening. So yeah. So and what makes this so perfect as well is that the symbol, or the Nawal, of today in the Maya calendar is Imox. So nothing could be more Cancer Capricorn than 7 Imox. 7 being, well, both 7 and Imox representing the collective. Emotion especially though, like 7 is more associated with like finality and endings, and like you can see the possibilities, but it's really more about making the choices. So 7's kind of the Capricorn that's like, yeah, I see all the mystical possibilities, but like, look, bro, I gotta make a decision. Yeah, it's associated with like death and endings as a result, and so is Capricorn. Capricorn is traditionally ruled by the planet Saturn. Saturn being time, Chronos, Ghost of Christmas featured, the scythe carrier, definitely like death and boundaries and yeah, but again, that we need to make those cuts sometimes, or we'll never go anywhere. So, and then emotion represents, the ocean of consciousness, the collective, the primordial soup that we all come from, and the beautiful, mystical, magical, thing we're all swimming in, where we start and end. But you can you can drown in the ocean. You can lose yourself in the collective consciousness. Sometimes it can be, if you don't have the boundaries of Capricorn, Saturn, 7, then you swim in the ocean forever. Cancer, you get lost in the feeling and you lose where you end and one begins. That's Cancer, that's emotion, that's also Neptune. So the current energies right now are also represented by this major transit that we're all experiencing, that's really only going to get even more intensified for us in 2026, which is the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries. So Aries is an initiatory sign. It's like go-getter. It's associated with, it's ruled by the sun. It's like drive forward, let's do it. And Neptune is the ocean, is emotion, is Cancer. It, god of the sea. It is the ocean. It is the feeling. It is art and mysticism and spirituality, and this kind of, like the boundarylessness that is needed to really like transcend this day-to-day experience and kind of feel connected to a larger purpose and understand that there's more to life. But then like that can be really intoxicating, right? And if we have no limits on it, then we can get lost in the sauce. And again, this is Jupiter associated as well. Like, this is where addiction comes in. This is where codependency comes in, or narcissism, if you're the one kind of like wielding the influence. If you are the one able to put the illusion onto people or create structures that encapsulate illusion, right? Because Saturn Neptune, this same energy that we're just talking about here, is like it can give structure to the dream and it can materialize beautiful things, but it can also materialize illusions. So like we have to just really tune in. That's where the feeling comes in. And that's where going back, to the body and to the part of emotion and Neptune and Cancer that is personal. And there are various ways to do that. Sometimes it's about just getting completely silent. Sometimes we need the help of some allies like plants and fungi and other people's reflections and, processes like journaling, things that get you out of the thinking mind are really helpful. And so, plant medicines, dance, music, like sometimes you need the sound and sometimes you need the silence. And yesterday I spent a lot of the day I had a good balance actually. I spent part of it in community conversation and part of it in reflection, and felt like, the full moon, I really need to tune in, right? Like I really need, like what's really interesting that I realized yesterday is that we can kind of get lost in the illusion of too many boundaries as well, right? So like we can have too much of anything, too much Capricorn, too much Saturn. It's like, now I'm going to isolate, I'm going to climb up on top of the mountain and like no one's ever going to see me again. And that is something that I struggle with. I think it's something a lot of queer and trans people struggle with, because we were taught we had to hide. another interesting like Capricorn association is it's a cloven-hooved animal. Cloven-hooved animals in the Bible and various Abrahamic traditions really get a bad rap. They get sacrificed. They get associated with the devil. Yeah, and part of what we're going to talk about in the workshop tomorrow, and I'm going to be really expanding on in like my Patreon and Substack, where I'm going to be kind of exploring like research and lived experience of these things, is this idea of like, yeah, the banished one. So interestingly, today's full moon alignment also happens at 13 degrees. 13 being like the number of the exile. It's the one left out of the zodiac wheel, some say. Some say there's a 13th sign. Some say there's a 13th disciple. There's a lot of stuff I'm going to say in the future about how these are the same thing, and like the disciples are most likely just personifications of astrological constellations anyways. So more on that later, but yeah, and like another part of the astrology that I haven't like quite brought in yet, because I'm going to go more into it tomorrow and next week, is this Venus star point cycle that's happening. Venus's name in Greek was Phosphoros, the light bringer. Another character in like mythology and spirituality called the light bearer was Lucifer, the devil, the cloven-hooved one, the sea goat. And there's this theme throughout history, right? Of like, if you know too much, I use the word history on purpose too, in recorded history, because this isn't what is taught in like the passed down oral traditions that are more based on allowing things to constantly change because they're not written, they're not fixed. Yeah, like the idea that knowledge will get you exiled, will make you be alone, isolated from the group, and like you'll probably die. So this is why I'm just bringing forward ideas as invitations to sit with today and see like what resonates with you. What parts feel true to your story, because we're all experiencing different elements of these types of things at once. Like, and that's really what like Cancer Capricorn is about. Like, what's Cancer Capricorn, 7 Emotion, Saturn Neptune, and yeah, then this other alignment that's happening, this Venus star point cycle that's coinciding with it's an every 8-year cycle. 8 also associated with like the occult and the devil and ooh, scary stuff, right? Every 8 years, Venus forms a giant pentagram in the sky. So do with that with what you will. This time, it's also basically Venus will complete this cycle at the same time that, more or less, that it aligns with the Sun and Mercury and Mars. So to me, this is super fucking queer. Because it's like what messages are being brought to light about what we've been told are these like opposite polarities, and what's actually the reconciliation of them, and like how does that align for us, and how does that materialize in our bodies, and like what's exiled material and what's our truth. So we're going to explore that more, but that's my invitation to invite you to. Sure. Yeah, we think about what was happening 4 years ago and 8 years ago, because these are like important points in the cycle. What wants to end, what wants to begin. Yeah. Another thing that's interesting about the alignment next week is that the planets are invisible to the naked eye. So again, this kind of concept of like, what can we see, and what actually are we being told is true? the physical versus the visible, the spiritual versus the material. Like, we've been told that these are verses, and they're not. We need both. You can associate Mars and Venus with these too. We need initiation, or nothing ever happens. We need to make decisions, or nothing ever happens. But if the decisions are not based on like feeling and what our bodies need and what the collective needs, then they're not going to be healthy. So, yeah, I hope that gives you something to reflect on this full moon. And please tune in to my, tomorrow, Sunday, the 3rd, is Venus cycles and queer and trans astrology. If you can't make it, or even if you watch this late and you want to still get the, anyone who signs up for the recording will get it. And yeah, you can watch it at any time. Again, these cycles repeat, so it's like all of astrology is always valid because everything comes back around. So like, it kind of doesn't matter in some ways, like when you watch it. I think we're guided to what we need at the time we need it. So yeah, just reach out to me if there's anything ever that I produce that you want that you can't afford, because I never want that to be a barrier. So yeah, enjoy the energy, or not. I mean, you do you.